Join us for a first review of the Mazda MX-30, the new Mazda EV. Let's go! Short preview because the EVs, they have instant torque, and what about the acceleration here for the Mazda MX-30? Let's go. Plop, that's 90 kilometers an hour, and I have to say it was also slightly uphill. So, what you've seen, for a 140 horsepower output vehicle, that was already quite impressive. And by the way, the top speed, oh, big bird, the top speed will also be 140 kilometers an hour, so that's also quite easy to remember. In the front, we can see here, the front grille is a little bit smaller than, for example, the CX-30, the ICE brother, the internal combustion engine brother, so they make it a little bit more likable. But then again, there's a three-dimensional design. Or heading over to the headlamps, they come with LED as a standard. Of course, there are some resemblance, again, to the Mazda CX-30, also to the Mazda 3. The length is 4.39 meters, 14'4", or 173 inches. That is actually the very same length as the Mazda CX-30. They do not share exactly the same platform because this one here is indeed an own EV platform, but they have a lot of similar parts and also, how they organize the structural rigidity. There you do see some resemblance, and again, the same length and the very same wheelbase. So they could use some knowledge from the ICE car platform and then develop the EV platform on the base of that. Then you can see design-wise, very strong crossover look here again with the fenders, 18-inch wheels in this case. At the moment it's only EV, but it will also be offered with a range extender at a later stage. Well, now here at the rear, again, very three-dimensional tail lamps. This is very interesting. And you can see when you have the contrast roof, it really continues up to the rear. So this is a more daring design element. And again, very thick plastic claddings here in the lower area. Let's talk about the specs here with the cutaway model, always interesting to see. The electric motor will be mounted in the front, so the lower part of that is especially the motor then, so just to the front wheel drive. 140 horsepower power output or 265 Newton meters of torque. Then the battery, the size is 35.5 kilowatt hours, so that's not that big. That's promising a range of about 200 kilometers or 125 miles. So this will be a 6.6 kilowatt AC charger next to a 50 kilowatt DC charger, and it depends on the region where you buy the car. Either it will be CCS, predominantly in Europe then, or CHAdeMO, for example, in Japan. So it depends on the market which DC charging standard you're getting. Three information in advance before we get to the interior actually. First of all, there will be a head-up display, so we can always see it from the outside. We won't be able to see it from the inside. Second, we are not allowed to go inside the car ourselves with our bodies because it's a hand-built show car, but we will show you everything from the interior and explain everything to you. And the trunk is also sealed off because there's no, real built trunk yet. But there's a lot to discover, I can tell you. First of all, let me show you. Those are suicide doors, so they open in an opposite way. Mazda calls them freestyle doors because that sounds better than suicide doors, of course. Now, inside of the doors here, this is already very special. You see the top part, the gray one. This is actually felt, but it's completely recycled, 100% recycled from PET, so from plastic bottles, so already more sustainable. And then the rest of the interior also, besides two exceptions, is all animal-free. So this one here is also animal-free. This one here is, rather hard-packed, but again in the, let's say, leatherette style. Then here as well, but this one will be softer touch than in the final model. And what's interesting here is already, and I also expect some leatherette for this part here, by the way, for the final model. Here, what you can see here, on the back side, this is already cork. The bright material, and I also have on my smartphone cover, for example. And why are they using this cork? And you can also see more of that in the middle console of the car, the lower middle console. They're using cork because Mazda, actually, what hardly anyone knows, they started as a cork company or cork production company 100 years ago. That's again, quotation of the past, and also using, let's say, more fun, but also more sustainable materials because it's even, waste cork they use for that. So the steering wheel and on the shifting lever, those are the only two parts still from animal origin. They are working on a solution for that too, to make it completely animal-free. Of course, the animal-free interior parts are more sustainable, more animal-friendly, also more human-friendly because the animal leather production process is a really hazardous process. Then you can see those instruments here, digital instruments, especially with the, screen in the middle there, and you can also see how it's the difference when it's all dark and how it's lightened up. So but the real screen then in the middle part, and then you have some analog elements on the outside parts each. Very interesting. On the steering wheel itself is pretty classic, as we know from Mazda. That's actually nothing new. And then more to this middle console, you can see this is the, say, automatic shifting lever. Electric car, of course, always has an automatic, therefore you don't need like any special or longer shifting lever. Then you have the screen there in the lower part to control the climate unit. You will be able to touch the screen, or here in the left side also to change the temperature. This is by touch. The top screen, 8.8 inch, as we also know from their combustion engine cars, this one will be having Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, is not touch. You control that actually there from the lower console again with this driving knob. So there's checkered metal checker structure around it. You can go back, have a hotkey for the GPS and so on. This will control be all there because they say it's better for safety. And in the lower part of the middle console, you also again have a cork ground, and there's also the part for the USB supplies and so on for all the connectors. And about the seat setup, there are actually two main themes they have there. This one here is called Modern Confidence, with a bright fabric on the inside and bright leatherette on the outside. And there's a second theme available. There's dark gray fabric on the inside and brown leatherette on the outside, called Industrial Vintage. And the special thing about this here is that they also try to implement recycled materials as for that make it more sustainable in the whole production process. And if you look at the outs of the seats here, it feels very, very soft. So you're using a special technique to make it very soft, and you don't feel any difference between the animal skin leather and the leatherette here. So more sustainable, it still feels very good. It's also very durable. And on the middle part then fabric to make it also more breathable, so it stays cooler in summer and also warmer in winter. And now we will take a first exclusive test ride for you here. From the outside, this vehicle here is a Mazda MX-30 from the outside parts. From the inside parts, technology-wise, it is already a Mazda MX-30 car. Again, a prototype vehicle, but Mazda promises us that the riding feeling will already be pretty much similar as the final MX-30 model later. In the final car, you'll be able to adjust the recuperation here with the shifting levers. So there will be some shifting levers right there, and then you can set 3 different modes of recuperation. But again, at the moment, it's rather rolling, so it doesn't feel much EV-alike. when you have this one pedal feeling with the very harsh recuperation, that's where it feels more electric vehicle-like. And the manufacturers have different philosophies if they do it the one way or the other way, rather this rolling approach, with like rolling is more efficient actually when you roll. But as soon as you reduce the speed, the recuperation is better, of course, but you can always induce it with the braking pedal. Then first the recuperation is done, and then when you need more braking power, then actually the real brakes set in. And the first thing I feel is it feels astonishingly normal. It doesn't feel that much EV-alike. But what is EV-alike is always the acceleration, and I can just show it to you when I'm at the moment I'm here at 40 kilometers an hour. Let's just hammer it. And that's 90, so pretty quick. And also here I feel that they found a very sporty base setup as for the center of gravity, shown it to you in the cutaway model. So that that's a really big advantage of all those EVs, the instant torque from the electric motor, and also the low center of gravity, because the whole weight of the battery is placed in the center of the vehicle, very low, and that brings the weight down. But again, the suspension is not set on a rough trim, and I really liked it because in everyday driving life you don't need a real rough sports suspension, and therefore the car is somewhat a little bit leaning into the corners, but that's also totally fine. Again, I don't need a rough sports setup. We have been criticizing that a little bit with the BMW i3, which is fun and sport to drive, but sometimes a little bit rough from suspension, and that's not the case here. Yeah, you've maybe been thinking it's a little bit i3 alike, yes, with the suicide doors and so on, and with the battery concept. Yeah, some could say it's the BMW i3 of Mazda. Oh, the Mazda engineer won't like that next to me, probably what I'm saying. I'm free to say whatever I want. Yeah, just kidding. So, but indeed, I found actually a little bit more comfortable than in the i3 as for suspension. And you've seen this instant torque is, of course, something that is always fun. And, when you are in situations where you need to overtake someone, like now, you get again instant torque, good acceleration, and still, it's pretty silent. That now we're all the way at almost 100 kilometers or 60 miles now. And noise insulation-wise, it's also pretty cool, so you don't hear any massive wind noise. So it's really silent both from the electric motor and from the wind noise, and that's then something you can also enjoy on like on longer rides and so on. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Mazda MX-30. Well, first of all, as for the name, yeah, some fans might be irritated because of the MX name. We had approximately the same here with the Ford Mustang Mach-E recently. You can argue about it. I mean, it's still, the name is okay because you have some letters and some numbers, as they also use with other cars. You can truly argue if MX is the right one, but they want to stress this sporty heritage. Then, in general, about the exterior design, I mean, it looks quite likable. It looks crossover SUV-ish, but then again, a little bit more agile, especially in the rear part. And I think overall, it will gather a lot of fans with that. Interior styling-wise, with a great living room atmosphere, looks really cool, clean and collected. The use of more sustainable materials and mainly animal-free materials is, of course, probably the best thing about this car. Finally, another manufacturer is thinking about a whole cycle of sustainability and making it better for the environment. And I think that's exactly the right approach. And you can, just recommend that also to other manufacturers to, be serious about sustainability, not only talk about it and use it as, marketing slogans, but really do something like this, which we can see here. And that's also the way sustainability works, if it's good or even better and sustainable at the very same time. Also interesting, for example, with the cork materials, and especially because they're referring to their heritage. Of course, some other elements we already know from the all-new Mazda models. They are, resembling the ones we have seen, Mazda 3, Mazda CX-30 and so on. But that's also, that customers actually get along with that maybe a little bit easier. And why not using those very same stuff we've seen there, because it's already has been proven. About the suicide doors, you can argue about that if that's, a clever choice. Of course, there is again this heritage referral. Yes, normal door would have been more practical. I think everyone agrees to that. It was the same with the BMW i3. For show purposes, this is somehow cooler, but for everyday driving life, the normal solution would have been definitely easier. Still, the dimensions of the cars are actually quite practical. It's not too big, not too small. You still have enough interior room left, but you can still use it in the city very well. About right sizing of the battery, yes, it's true that you actually save especially CO2 output and also raw materials in the production process when you don't make the battery that big. Then again, the low range could be a factor where someone says, maybe I go for a different vehicle. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I favor this, environmental aspect about the smaller battery, yes. If you use this one for city drive only, this won't be a problem at all. Just recharge it overnight in your, household plug or something. This will be all fine. But the use is definitely limited if you think a little bit more motorway and a little bit more longer drives. So you have to think about that if that's then the right car for you, or if you go for something with a bigger battery. And driving-wise, for this conclusion, we go outside again. And to our separate conclusion from our driving part, it was a very interesting experience. First of all, it feels very compact to drive, very fun to drive. It's not too stiff and sporty. Yet again, it's a little bit more fun than driving with the combustion engine cars. Also, if you compare to the Mazda 3 or Mazda CX-30, it has just a little bit more power, especially than the naturally aspirated engines. So that was a very cool experience. But it does not feel that much electric vehicle-alike. So from the EVs I've been driving, especially if you don't set any strong recuperation, it feels least EV-alike. And you can favor that, or you can say, I want a strong EV feeling. But then again, if you set later on like the recuperation mode a little bit stronger, then it will feel more electric vehicle-alike. But overall, the coolest thing about this car, I think, is that they achieved a very natural driving feeling. So you feel, pretty much in unity, as also in the marketing slogan. In this case, it's correct that, like driver, car and road is pretty much connected. And that's indeed what they also achieved here, especially with the lower center of gravity and more power you get here from this electric vehicle. So very promising first ride, and I hope to be able to continue for that with the series production model. We'll soon show that to you as soon as it's available. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and leave us your feedback. See ya.